Hey everybody, it's GauntletX and welcome back to some more Magic Arena. Today I'll be playing the Festival Dragon Brawl event. This is a historic Brawl event where you play with pre-constructed decks based around 5 different legendary dragon commanders. The event costs 5,000 gold or 1,000 gems, and you get to play as much as you want, collecting 2 card styles for every win. So you get a grand total of 10 card styles at the end of the event. The card styles given out are a bunch of different dragon styles based on the old Dungeons & Dragons monster manuals. As you can see in the background there, that is the kind of style you will be getting. Also, as you can see, I had some technical difficulties here, so I did have to restart the recording. So I've already got a few wins, got a little bit of experience with all of these decks here, but I will be playing one game with each deck here, although I don't know if I'll be getting one win with every deck because I only need 2 more wins and I don't have much more time after those technical difficulties to record. So the decks that we have today are the blue-red spells deck of Galazeth Prismari. Galazeth creates a treasure token and lets your artifacts tap to cast your instants and sorceries. So this deck can create a lot of treasure tokens, Thopter tokens, and cast some really big instants and sorceries early, as well as just chaining together a lot of cheap ones, like cheap instants and sorceries that produce treasure tokens. You can now like loop those together really efficiently with Galazeth's ability. So pretty fun kind of spell slinger strategy there. You have Miram Sentinel Worm, which is the blue, green, red dragon tribal deck. This is the most dragony of all the Dragon Brawl decks. Miram is a 6 mana 6/6 flying ward 2, so it's harder to target, and it's going to duplicate every non-token dragon you cast for the rest of the game. You're just going to get an extra copy of it when it hits the board, even the legendary ones. So Miram is the most explosive kind of late game strategy in the event, and I think it's probably the strongest of the commanders, but not the strongest deck. They did make the Miram deck have some relatively weak mana ramp, not the craziest thing ever, so that the other decks can still, try to compete by outracing that deck. Shadrix's Silverquill is a nice, very white-focused token deck. It's not quite mono-white, obviously, because it is white-black, but it has a ton of white Anthem effects, cards that give your whole board +1/+1, as well as a ton of token producers, which is also primarily in white. So cards like Banalish Marshal, 3 white mana, 3/3, that gives your whole board +1/+1 is in this deck. Cards like Wedding Announcement are kind of the perfect cards for the deck, because they're going to spit out a few 1/1 tokens, and then it will flip into an Anthem that gives everything +1/+1. So the name of the game: go wide, make a bunch of creatures on the board, and then make them all bigger and kill your opponent very quickly, probably the fastest of the decks. Next up is Tanazir Quandrix. This was my least favorite so far, but we will be playing a game with every deck, so you can see a little gameplay. This one is a blue-green counters deck, so the idea here is to get some creatures with a lot of counters on them and then cast your commander Tanazir Quandrix, which enters the battlefield and doubles the counters on one of your creatures to make something really, really big. So you have a lot of cards that proliferate as well. What I don't like about this deck is, in order to get the deck to function, there's a chunk of cards in here that are just for putting more counters on your cards, and then a chunk of cards in here that are just for being cards that come with a bunch of counters. So this deck, I feel, is the most open to drawing pretty bad hands, where you could draw a hand that has nothing but cards that will increase the amount of counters on your cards, and no cards that actually come with counters. Like, you could draw a hand with Evolution Sage to proliferate, and Tanazir in the command zone to double your counters, Hardened Scales, stuff like that, that's going to add more counters to your card without actually drawing anything that gets +1/+1 counters on it. You could also have the opposite happen. So it's the most kind of open to drawing bad hands out of all the decks, in my opinion, the least consistent. And then last but definitely not least is Zayatora the Incinerator. I think this is one of the best ones. I think my favorites are Shadrix and Zayatora. But Zayatora is pretty sick. It's just a Jund sacrifice deck. It's pretty classic Jund sacrifice stuff, just really good token production, really good cards when you're sacrificing cards, like Judith, letting you deal damage whenever your cards are dying, and yeah, it's just a pretty explosive strategy. Zayatora, the namesake card, is a 6 mana 6/6 flying trample. At the beginning of your end step, you get to sacrifice any creature you control to deal damage equal to its power to any target and create 3 treasures. So very explosive deck there. I think Zayatora is quite powerful. But we're just going to start with Miram here because it was the deck I was playing at the time. We're going to give every deck one game to shine, and hopefully in these next 5 games we can get at least 2 wins. So without further ado, let's head into game 1 here. Alright, so here we are on the play with Scaled Nurturer turn 2. Pretty great start for the Miram deck. This deck has a little bit of a ramp, not as much as I would prefer, but this hand is perfect. Scaled Nurturer into Dragon Sword. That is what you want to see. Our opponent is on the Shadrick Silverquill deck, which I think is one of the strongest aggressive decks, so I think it has a pretty good matchup against the Miram deck, because this is probably the slowest of all of the decks. Wanting you to get a 6-mana commander out there and then play more, even bigger cards. And Jadar's a pretty scary start from our opponent. They can keep hitting us with that Decayed Zombie token, really getting in for a lot of damage quite quickly. Just get a Dragon Sword down, really get our ramp going. This Miram deck has a lot of clone effects, so you can clone your biggest dragon and get a duplicate with Miram. The Restoration of Eiganjo, really nice curve from our opponent, and some pretty aggressive cards. The Restoration of Eiganjo, next turn they can discard a permanent with mana value 2 or less and bring it back from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped, so that can ramp them up in mana or get them another creature on board. So we take the hit from Jadar and the zombie down to 22. Now we have 6 mana up. We can just go for Miram and hope they don't have the cheap removal. We are gaining 2 life in the process as well, going up to 24 and getting a horde counter, well, a gold counter on the Dragon's Horde, so we can tap the Horde to draw a card if we don't need that mana. Alright, see what they get off Restoration. It's going to be another land for our opponents. The other great thing about the Restoration is it turns into a 3/4 Vigilance that spits out a 1/1 Spirit whenever it attacks or blocks. So another great token card there. Now Adorned Pouncer, pretty aggressive card, a 1/1 Double Striker that can eternalize or come back from the graveyard as a 4/4. So that will be incredibly scary if it comes back from the grave as a 4/4. We've got the mana to cast Lonus Cryptozoologist and hold up Gale's Redirection, which I think is what I want to do here, because these clone effects are pretty bad here, because all our creatures are either small or legendary, so we could make a duplicate of Miram that would then immediately die to the legendary rule. Although I guess we'd get a legendary version of Miram and a non-legendary because of Miram's effect, so we would have one non-legendary Miram sticking around. So Vizier of Many Faces wouldn't be bad here, cast that on Miram, because we'd get a non-legendary Miram and the Vizier would be in the graveyard to embalm to do it again. But I like holding up Gale's Redirection. It's just a pretty fun card. It's not very good if they just cast their commander this turn, but against anything else it's pretty solid. And if they do just cast their commander this turn, I'm probably still just going to counter it. This is just a counter spell if you try to counter a commander, because they'll put it back into their command zone, but if you counter anything else, then you get to cast the exiled card against your opponent. You use their own card against them. Pretty fun counter spell from the new Baldur's Gate set. They're going to go for the intervention, so we're going to scoop that up and cast it against them. And we can do it for free, which means we can do it immediately. They do have 1 enchantment to blow up. Yeah, that's going to be disgusting. Wow, what a turn for us. We get the almost full value. They don't have an artifact for us to blow up. Yeah, they're going to scoop them up. They see we get to cast the free intervention. We're blowing up their Architect of Restoration. We're getting 2/2/2, so we're killing Jadar and the Pouncer and gaining 3 life, seeking a non-land permanent with mana value 3 or less to our hand. It's going to be a huge blowout there, getting their own intervention against them. Really good stuff from Gale's Redirection. That'll be a win with the Miram deck. That'll be my 4th win total, because again, the technical difficulties earlier, unfortunately. There were some arena updates going on that made me close and reopen and a bunch of that kind of stuff, and also I accidentally left the black square open again. If you've seen a recent draft, I think it was in one of my Crimson Vow drafts, I accidentally left the webcam scene open when the webcam's turned off, so there's just a black box on screen for all of those games, which is pretty obnoxious. So The two card styles we get here are going to be Ancient Copper Dragon and Alondo the Seer. So as you can see, not all of the styles are dragons, but most of them are. And there is a set list of 10. You can check out the link in the description below if you want to see all of the information on this event, including what exact 10 card styles you'll get. But it's like 8 dragons and then 2 legendaries like Alondo. So Miram, that is a win under our belt for that deck. We just played against the Silver Quill deck, so to keep it interesting, we'll move on to a different one. Let's go Zayatora this time. Again, we will do a game with every deck. Alright, so here we are in game 2 with the Zayatora Jund Sacrifice deck. And we're against another Shadrick Silverquill deck. Opponent goes first. I'm definitely keeping this hand. The mana is great. We've got some big stuff to play as well as a nice 2-drop zombie to get things rolling. So we have 2 green sources. This one's a green source as well. So we have 3 green, 1 red, 1 black. 2 double red cards in hand, so we're going to go Thriving Grove on red. See what kind of aggressive curve this Silver Quill deck can do this time around. Right, there's the Snarl and a turn 2 Adorned Pouncer. The cat is back. This Crag's never going to come in untapped at this rate. Probably pretty important to just play the zombie here, though. So we can trade off into the Pouncer, deal with it for now. So their commander, Shadrick Silverquill, gets to choose 2 different things, and each player gets one of those things. So usually they're going to have us get a 2/1 flyer or draw a card, and then have their whole board get a +1/+1 counter. It's generally how it goes. But there's situations where if we have 0 creatures on the board, then they'll just choose to put a +1/+1 counter on our non-existent creatures. Stuff like that. They can, even though they have to give us one of those abilities, they can still make it go pretty far in their favor. And this looks like a way deadlier curve from the Shadrick Silverquill deck this time. We're definitely going to have to burn down the house in the future. Does this exile? No, it doesn't exile what we hit, so I think I'm still going to take that Adorned Pouncer trade. Get that off the board. Now we have Plumb the Forbidden. I would rather Deadly Dispute, and I'd like to do it immediately to see if I draw into anything. Since this zombie can't block, it's not helping us at all here on the defensive. We get a Daemogoth Woe Eater, we get a treasure token. I could play Deathcap Glade to play a 2-drop, but we don't have a good one to play, so I'm going to play the... I guess I can play a Forest here, and then every land in hand comes in untapped later. Then I do still have the option to Plumb the Forbidden if I want, but I think I would rather hold on to this treasure token. Cast something larger earlier. We're just on the turn 5 burn down the house plan. Turn 4 from our opponent, they're dropping Visionary Augmenter. They can either get 2 1/1s or make that a 4/3 with 2 +1/+1 counters on it. They're going to get the 2 1/1s, very strong card here, incredibly wide board, which makes Adeline hit us even harder. We're just going to take it all. Gearing up to burn down the house. Just play this Daemogoth Woe Eater, because this can block one thing pretty well, and then we'll gain some life off of it when we sacrifice it in our upkeep, because we're going to kill every creature on the board anyway. It's pretty solid to play the creature that just is going to sacrifice itself later. Because this card gives us value when we sacrifice it, and gives us a really good block this turn just to help survive. Minthara of the Absolute. This is an absolutely devastating card. Every time one of their permanents leaves the battlefield, they increase their intensity, and their whole board gets +1/+0 for each intensity they have. So currently it'll be intensity 1 when I trade with something, or when I kill something. Alright, in the interest of stopping damage, I'd rather stop 8 damage than gain 2 life and have my opponent discard a card, I think. And yeah, we are going to burn down the house on our turn, but you get to see the really fun intensity animation on Minthara. I really like the intensity animation where they just get shooketh. Alright, blow up the board now. And we're going to have to deal with an Adorned Pouncer being able to come back from the grave, but that's fine. Actually, they have a really good Shadrix play this turn if they have the land. Yeah, they probably just play Shadrix, put a +1/+1 counter on all of our creatures, and give themselves a token. No, they're going to go for Deadly Visitation as the play. So I could go for Beledros Witherbloom or Ziator the Incinerator. This gets me a 1/1 every single upkeep. Yeah, I'm gonna play Beledros Witherbloom first. Just seems really, really nice here to start trying to spit out a bunch of little pest tokens to gain me some life and get some more sacrificial fodder before we play Ziatora, because if we play Ziatora and then we don't have anything to sacrifice, she doesn't do that much. So let's get that little engine spewing out the pests to sacrifice first. And if we gain enough life, we can even untap all our lands for 10 life. Probably won't happen. So we'll see what they want to do with Shadrix. Now that they have Divine Visitation out, I'm assuming they're going to choose to get the 2/1, and then we maybe draw a card, lose a life, or a +1/+1 counter on our board. They have to give us something here. Yeah, it looks like they're going to get the 2/1 flyer because of Divine Visitation, and we're going to draw the card. So it's a 4/4 flyer thanks to the Visitation. Okay. Doomed Dissenter is the draw. Visitation's a pretty big deal. I'm not sure what I do about it. Just play a Leyline Tyrant to trade in, but then they can put counters on their board next turn. Might just be dead. We just don't have anything big enough to sacrifice to do enough damage to keep killing all these angels. I could play Ziator and sack Beledros, but that seems bad. Yeah, I need to draw into specific stuff. I need like enchantment removal or we're just gone, so I think I just sack these pests and see if I can get anywhere here. Plumbing the Forbidden. We get a land, a 2/1, and a land. Alright, I think we're dead. I think it was just a better curve out from the Silver Quill deck this time around. We'll at least have 2 flying blockers on the board, so we're unlikely to die immediately next turn. But again, if they choose to put +1/+1 counters on their board, we don't have good blocks. So they have 6 mana now. If they hit a land this turn, they've got 7. We know they could play Adorned Pouncer, which they could play as a 4/4 double striker, or no, they don't get to choose. So they just spend 5 mana, they get a 4/4 flyer instead of a 4/4 double striker. Well, we don't know what's in their hand. If they have something that makes like 4 1/1s, we're super dead. Yeah, Halo Fountain. We need something that blows up like all artifacts and enchantments. I'm not sure that that's in this deck. I'm just gonna get another angel here, it looks like. They sure are. And they still attack in here, interesting. We can force them to recast Shadrix. Unless they have a trick in hand. They get us really hard if they have a trick in hand, but I don't think there's a lot of combat tricks going on in these decks. Alright, untap Shadrix, it's whatever. They do a 1 mana removal spell. Oh my god, yeah, we've gotten absolutely handled by the Shadrix deck here. Definitely feel like it's probably the strongest one. We are incredibly dead on board. I guess we could have played the Skullport Merchant to draw 1 more card there. But doubt it gets us another Wrath. Alright, moving on from the Zayatora deck, we've done Miram, Zayatora, let's move back towards Tanazir Quandrix. This is my least favorite of the decks, but maybe we'll draw a pretty sick hand with it this time around. I think we'll end off with the Silver Quill deck, because they have seemed the strongest so far in terms of our competition. Playing against a Miram deck here. We do have the Hardened Scales. This is one of those things I was talking about. I really think Inexorable Tie is just a really bad card, even if you are playing a token deck. So I'm not a huge fan of the kind of enabler cards that are like 5 mana to start getting extra +1/+1 counters. I think the Tanazir deck just has too many cards that are only there to enable your other cards and don't really do anything standalone. I also kept a bit of a risky hand here. That's my fault. Just 2 mana. Okay. Turn 2, drop a Scavenging Ooze past turn. Got a Lizarog. This is another one that's just a weird, not great +1/+1 counter payoff card. Oh, we're gonna get stuck on mana. That's my bad, though. At least we get to kill our mana dork with this ram through. Keep them off of an early game Miram. If they're stuck on 3 mana, actually pretty low on mana for that deck. That could leave them in the same position as us, but nope, there's a 4th land for them. They're just going to blow up the Scavenging Ooze, which is fair. Card is pretty good, and we can't draw lands here. There's Imarith Desert Doom. There's the 3rd mana, which we use to dig for the 4th. And there's the 4th mana. There we go. Probably fell too far behind here, though. Especially because this hand just really does not have anything near that power level of Imarith and Miram here. All the removal in this deck is like fight spells too, so we need to get something that's like 6/6 or better and have the mana to pay for the ward. Just doesn't feel like we can compete much at this point. We've got a Plunderer that's going to let us put an extra counter on our cards whenever we deal damage to an opponent. Could Inscription of Abundance to give the Skyship Plunderer 3 counters out of nowhere, make it a 5/4 because of Hardened Scales, so 2 from Abundance, 1 from Scales. But now that's double Korlessa from our opponents, so they can play dragons from the top of their library. And then a Realm Walker, they can double play dragons from the top of their library. And there's going to be 2 Realm Walkers too. Miram is the most kind of glass cannon-y of the decks, because Miram is really like, if you get the Miram out, then just everything you play is just like doubling them up. But if you don't get the Miram out, you know, Realm Walkers, Coalesces are just fine by themselves. Best way to play against the Miram deck is to just counter Miram and destroy Miram every single time that thing gets anywhere near the battlefield. but unfortunately we don't have a way to do that. We can kill Emerith here, though, with our Inscription of Abundance. Gonna have to 2-for-1 ourselves to do that, but that's just where we're at here. They are down to 2 cards in their hand, so if they don't hit dragons on top of their library, we have a mild shot. Looks like the other card in their hand might be 2 mana removal. Looking around over there. Wow, yeah, one of the 2 cards is a 2 mana removal spell. That will get us really hard, and yep, that was kind of our one shot there, and we missed another land, so very out of it. That one was self-inflicted a bit. Risky keep. It definitely didn't pay off. But even with a perfect curve with our cards in hand here, I don't think we compete against the Miram deck. So that is going to be 3 of the 5 decks now. Now we need to play with Galazeth Prismari and Shadrix Silverquill. Go with the Galazeth Prismari deck. It is a lot of fun to cast those instants and sorceries off of your little treasure tokens, so I do enjoy this deck quite a bit. Alright, another 2-land hand. Really, really bad hands for Brawl. You need way more lands than this. Should probably be running more lands than you would think. Our opponent scoops them up, so that'll be our final victory. A win for the Galazeth Prismari deck. But, we'll just run it back. Want to play an actual game with Galazeth Prismari, but the final styles are an Ancient Brass Dragon and Ancient Gold Dragon, 2 very nice card styles as well. So let's get our Galazeth Prismari game out of the way, get our Shadrix Silverquill game. Let's actually see some gameplay out of these decks, shall we? Okay. Definite keep here. This is way better than the last hand. This one is sick. It's got the 2 mana ramp of Cold Steel Heart. I like to run a ton of cheap ramp if I'm going to play big explosive decks like these kind of Brawl decks that they've built. So that's part of why I'm not a massive fan of most of these decks. They're just running a decent bit less ramp than I would in my own decks. And just like less good, consistent early game plays. They've got the big explosive late game stuff down, but a lot of their early game stuff is a bit mediocre. Alright, there's Squirrel Sanctuary from our opponent on the Zayatora deck, the Jund Sacrifice deck. Let's get a Cold Steel Heart on blue here to ramp up. Woe Strider from our opponent. That's the problem. That is a free sacrifice outlet. They can just sack a creature to scry 1 whenever they want. And with Squirrel Sanctuary, if they pay 1 mana when they have a non-token creature die, they can put that Squirrel Sanctuary back to their hand. So you can keep getting just a field full of squirrels over time. We just go for Galazeth here. Get that treasure token even if they immediately blow them up. And there's 4 mana from our opponent. See what they want to do with it. Jaxis, the Troublemaker. This is a very quick curve coming out from the Zayatora deck. Blitz out the Jaxis. They can make a duplicate of one of their cards that will also get sacked in the end step. But they get another goat if they choose the Woe Strider. They get the enter the battlefield effects of whatever they choose. And then when Jaxus dies, the Squirrel Sanctuary spits on another card. It looks like no second red source for our opponent to use with Jaxus. Might be trying to use a trick to kill Galazeth. I'm pretty cool taking 2 damage here. If this is all a ruse and it's cost me 2 life, that's fine. We're gonna pick up that Squirrel Sanctuary and draw a card from Jaxus. Alright, here we go. Now we get to set up to try to do some explosive stuff. As much as I want to Stormkill an Artist, I don't have the mana to hold up my counterspell after that. I can only counter small stuff, but still it could maybe get me an instant or sorcery cast afterwards. So I'm going to go with Saheeli. Now I do have the mana to hold up the Hypnotic Sprite effect if I want. I think I'll attack with Galazeth. Saheeli's got 5 loyalty. It's cool if she takes 4 damage from these 2 on the ground. I'm not really going to be blocking with Galazeth because I don't want to put them in any danger at any risk. So hopefully our opponent has another small card to play here, otherwise it would have been better to just Arcane Signet. I guess now that I think of it, I could have... sure, we could just counter that. I was going to say, I could have Arcane Signeted for 2, and then we would have a Treasure, a Thopter, and an Arcane Signet to pay for the Sprite. Yeah, I could have played Arcane Signet there and still been holding up 3 mana. That was a misplay. Just forgot how good Galazeth is. Oh, wait, no, the servos... I couldn't have done that because the servos will be summoning sick, so they can't tap till the turn after we make them. So it all worked out perfectly. I actually did the right thing. Alright, go to 1, Saheeli.
Cease this.
Yeah, this Crater Maker can't do damage to Planeswalkers. I don't have an instant or sorcery to cast with the Stormkill an Artist, so we just go Arcane Signet. Get more servos. Yeah, Finale Promise just does nothing because there's no instants or sorceries in grave. Blitz of the Raptor also does nothing, there's no instants or sorceries in grave. Play Hypnotic Sprite, play a tapped land. We've got blockers out the wazoo now. Just keep attacking for 3 in the sky, but we need to draw into something. Need to hit some action here. Our opponent needs to hit some lands, we need to hit some spells. Kind of similar issues going on to that Tan Azir deck where they have some cards that are just like only good in specific situations, like Blitz of the Thunder Raptor, which really you gotta wait till later in the game after you've cast a bunch of instants and sorceries. Not a massive fan of this card even in a deck with a ton of instants and sorceries like this one. I would just prefer probably like Lava Coil or something. 2 mana sorcery, 4 damage, exile whatever you target. Finale of Promise as well. It's a big game-ending card, but only if you've got a bunch of stuff in grave. So just a little narrow. Well, there goes the entire board, I suppose. Yeah, nothing we can do about it.
Innovation knows no bounds. I will return.
Alright, Galazeth can come right back. I could play Stormkill an Artist, but again, we're not getting any tokens off of it. It would be a scary threat, but it wouldn't be that big because we'd have to sack both of our treasures to play it right now. Maybe I should have just played Artist first and then Prismari the turn after. This Artist does get +1/+0 for every artifact you control, including tokens. So Artist can still hit pretty hard. Alright, Woe Strider coming back out of the grave as a 5/4 that comes with that goat. They can start hitting pretty hard on the ground. Aether Spell Bomb. That's an interesting addition. I guess it can tap for instants and sorceries off of Prismari's effect. I think we're really using it here. I might just sack it to draw a card. Not right now, though. But yeah, if we bounce Woe Strider to their hand, we're getting rid of the 2 +1/+1 counters on it, but then they can just recast it anyway. I guess if they tap out for Zayatora, then we can respond by putting Woe Strider in hand, and they don't have anything. They don't have anything good to sacrifice after that. So they don't tap out for Zayatora, which is a smart play. They're going to go for Leyline Tyrant instead now. They are going to attack with Woe Strider. Honestly, I think it's probably fine to just trade here, because they don't have any cards in their graveyard anymore, so it'll be quite some time before Woe Strider comes back. And you're going to sack it to get a bunch of 1/1s. Okay. And I think I am gonna... Well, no, Unsummon is probably better than whatever I hit off the top. Just being able to return Zayatora if they spend all their mana on it next turn. Probably better. Not good draws, though. These cards are really hurting. Basically just down 2 cards because they just don't do anything here. I guess I could have used Frostpire. I'd blow up my Stormkiln Artist, which isn't ideal, but I'd also blow up all of their pests. Does 2 damage to everything and I scry 2. Only as a sorcery, though. Probably not worth it. Artist is solid. We might Spellbomb Vivectus, but we'd want to do that next turn when it's actually threatening to attack. Does do some nasty things when it does. Alright, we can't beat a 4/4 flyer, so we'll take that. Draw a card for turn. And pass. Blood Aspirant, so when they sacrifice permanents, they get a +1/+1 counter on that. Slowly but surely you can just get bigger. Draconic Disciple for some mana ramp, and we are putting Vivectus in their hand right now, so we don't have to deal with that attacking, blowing stuff up, getting sacrifice triggers for Blood Aspirants. Draconic Intervention. We can blow up everything except Leyline Tyrant? Oh no, you have to exile an instant or sorcery in your graveyard. Why? I thought that was the one where you exile a creature and deal damage equal to the creature's power. Nope, exile an instant or sorcery from grave. Deal X to each, where X is the card's mana value. Kill our own Stormkiln Artist, but we kill Blood Aspirant, Draconic Disciple, and the Goat if I just play a Blitz for no reason. And then do it. It's probably what I do. And it's all exiled, so no death triggers. I guess that's the same outcome as just sacrificing the Frostpire. at that point. But exiling is good to stop their Woe Strider from coming back. And I kind of wanted to just find a use for the useless cards of Blitz and Draconic Intervention. At least we got to do something with them. Yeah, we're just going to die here because we just can't do anything. There's some really bad draws this game. Definitely showing off the flaws in the Dragon decks. It's the kind of narrow sort of enabler sort of cards. Yeah, but then the kinds of, where did this come from? Experimental Overload? Oh, it's on top of my library. And it also does literally nothing because I have no instants or sorceries in grave. Alright, I'm gonna scoop them up. We're dead. They hit us for 6, then they play Zayatora, sacrifice that, and hit us for 6 more, or they spend 4 mana into Leyline Tyrant and hit us for 4, and then that hits us for 6. Draw all cards that care about instants and sorceries in grave with no instants and sorceries in grave. Rough stuff from Galazeth Prismari. Definitely dropped a lot in my deck rankings there, but I did have a lot of fun on my first playing of that deck. Finally, last but definitely not least, the Shadrix Silver Quill deck, which is, in my opinion, by far the most consistent of all of these strategies. Outside of maybe Zayatora. Zayatora is also quite consistent. But this one is shown as just like white-black token aggro beatdown. Pretty much always going to do things. Not with this hand, though. This hand is too slow for this deck. We're going to mulligan this. Not doing anything till turn 4. Free mulligan. There we go. Clarion Spirit to start off and a Halo Fountain to follow it up. Not excellent, but not terrible. Got a Wrath effect too, which is interesting. So again, a really, really high curve for this kind of deck. In this hand. Not into that at all. Horn of Valhalla, another very expensive card because you want to do the X mana effect. Yeah, you really don't want to run Clarion Spirit in your decks unless you have a lot of 1s and 2s. Haven't taken a full look at the deck list, so I could just be drawing bad, but this is a lot of 5s and 6s. Oh my god. We have X, X, 6, 5. We've drawn a 6X and a 6 this game. Halo Fountain doesn't do anything unless we have another creature on the board. But it's probably better than using Horn of Valhalla's Adventure just to get a single 1/1. And that has to come into play tapped, which means we don't have a good play for this turn. Unless I want to make 1 token from either of these cards, and I don't want to do that. Ambitious Dragonborn, which, because it's a dragon, puts a counter onto the dragon's horde and gets a counter from the Metallic Mimic. Now we don't have much choice but to get some tokens here. Not super worried about destroying non-creature, non-land permanents against the Miram deck, so I'm just going to get the 2/2/1 flyers. Miram deck, I really just want to blow up all of their creatures later after they start Miraming out a bunch of duplicates. So I'm really just kind of all in on Crux of Fate. We also have the intervention to blow up an artifact and enchantment later if we really need to blow up non-creature stuff. So I think an early blot out the sky is fine, just to keep us alive till we can hit our Crux of Fate. And Crux of Fate could be one-sided, actually, in this matchup, because this is destroy all dragons or non-dragons. So if our opponent only plays their dragons in their dragon tribal deck, we can just destroy their whole board of creatures without losing any of ours. Because we can play a lot of non-dragon stuff. Our opponent's stuck on mana a little bit here. I think I like drawing cards off Shadrix if I can, if they don't counter Shadrix. I guess we give our opponent an inkling of their own, because it doesn't attack into Shadrix well. And we just hold off our blockers. Could give their creatures counters. They still wouldn't quite be able to attack into Shadrix. That's probably fine too. I guess I'll do that. I'll draw the card, I'll give their creatures counters. Because no matter how big the creatures become, they will still die to Crux of Fate. So, do that here, just sit here, get our lands, work up towards the intervention. Intervention could be really deadly here, because they are still stuck on 3 mana right now, and we're going to get rid of a mana rock. I guess they're stuck on 4 mana because of the mana rock. That's stuck on 3 lands. Alright, the 4th land is here. That's 5 mana up for our opponent. Wow, that's pretty good here. 1 damage each creature with flying. Heaven and Earth. Angel of Invention is a pretty good draw here. Safer to just Crux of Fates. I think my Angel of Invention... I guess they can Earth away my servos. So I kind of have to just Crux of Fate now. Because also if I Horn of Valhalla for a bunch of 1/1s, they also still just cast Earth. Wow. Yeah, we die to like 1 removal spell. Oh, I wish I, This is a dragon, right? Yeah. Wish I hit the land there for the intervention. Blow up the horde, gain some life, trade into their 3/2 and chump block the other creature. There's Miram. I have to Valorous Stance that before it pops off. Get to drop a Jadar here, I guess. With the leftover mana. We're getting to the big 6 mana plays that we've got. Starting to make up for the slow start with just some big stuff late game. We can try to just compete 1-for-1 with all the big spells from the Miram deck. They're just gonna Earth our Jadar here, 1-for-1. Yep. They lose Earth, we lose Jadar. And a land. 3, 4, 6, 7. They're 1 mana away from playing Miram again. We have 6 mana. We could intervention and blow up their horde. I'm gonna do that. And I'm gonna do it right now. so they can't tap it in response during their turn to get some mana out of it. They do get to draw a card off of it. There's Lathless, the Dragon Queen. Well, if they don't have removal in hand, Harmonious Archon's a really big deal here, so I'm going to try that out. I guess if they do have removal, we die. So maybe I should have just Giant Killered Adventured. Yeah, I almost definitely should have. I forgot this has an adventure that could do that till it was too late. I was like, well, I don't have removal in hand, so the best play if we didn't have removal is Archon. We actually do have removal. We have Giant Killer. But I forgot about Chop Down till it was too late. Alright, they didn't have removal here. That's definitely good for us. There's History of Benalia. Now we can... No, I need another land still. If I want to play Angel and hold up Chop Down. Really want to hold up Chop Down, which means I can play 4 mana worth of cards. So, Benalia... Benalia and an Inchblade Companion, I guess. I guess I'd rather use Halo Fountain again. Dragon Turtle. Tap down our flyer. Pretty big deal. Yeah, that just kills us. If they tap down our flyer, they're attacking for 6 in the sky, and Lathless can buff all their dragons multiple times. So we are dead because I didn't immediately chop down Lathless. Actually, no, we have Halo Fountain. Never mind. Halo Fountain's just sick. We'll be A-okay. Unless they hit another removal spell, then we won't be. I'm very happy they used that right now. If they had held on to that, they could have tricked us here. Although, wait, no, because of Lathless. Oh my god, Lathless, yeah. Did you get another dragon? Okay, we're still dead. Because one of them gets through. With flying. That's a sick combo. I was like, now we know they can't re-tap our Archon after we untap it, but they just get another dragon. Lathless doesn't care if you cast the dragon, they just care if it enters the battlefield. They can buff 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, exactly 4 times, exactly enough to kill us. Through a chop down. And they have more removal. Incredibly dead. I misplayed that one pretty hard. We could have chopped down Lathless and probably outraced them if we did that, but doesn't matter. It's a casual event. We already got all the wins out of it, so it's all good. Well, that was the Dragon Brawl Festival, showing off all 5 of the decks today. But we've got all the card styles out of it already. I think I am done with the event here. If you are interested in checking out the event, it'll be on Arena for probably about a week, is how they usually do these events. There's the link in the description below. And if you just want the card styles, I believe, based on this green text, you can just pay for the event and not play at all if you don't want to play with these decks, which would be fair enough. I might be a little bit of a controversial opinion alert, but I'm not a big fan of how these decks are designed. When I play Historic Brawl, I'm really like playing my own decks and designing my own decks and stuff. These decks feel way too focused on high mana cost cards and enablers and stuff. It feels like they're almost built as commander decks, built for 4-player events where in Commander, because 4 people are playing, you can sit there and do all the setup you want and you'll be fine. But when you're in a 1v1 game, you can't just sit here and be like, I'm going to play Branching Evolution turn 3, and then I'm going to play Inexorable Tide turn 5. Like, these just big do-nothing enablers that need other cards specifically to start popping off. Because then you just die to the Silver Quill deck, because they're just playing tokens and hitting you while you're doing stuff like that. So a lot of designs like that, plus pretty high curves, but part of that was also just due to my draws in the games. So I don't know. This was a fine event, but I prefer the ones with like more interesting kind of emblems and more unique sort of deck lists. I like playing my own historic Brawl decks if I want to play that format. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the format. That was a little look at each of the decks, and that's pretty much it. That'll end today's video. If you want to see some more videos like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to let the YouTube algorithm know to send you some more of these videos in your recommended feeds. And as always, thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon for some more Magic Arena.